Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 5 of Friday Fables. I am one of your hosts, Jax, and joining me as always is Kira.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah, welcome on into another episode. So, as usual, we'll start off with games we've been playing recently. So, myself, I've been playing quite a bit of World of Warcraft, the War Within, the new expansion. Had a bit of mixed feelings about it over the past week or so since the last episode. Been not completely feeling it, unfortunately, but uh, kind of to supplement that, I've been playing a ton of Wolong Fallen Dynasty for the PlayStation 5, so I've been getting on with that. Most recently, I was farming Lubu because I was trying to make a fire set for my character. It's not quite done yet. I think I just need to do some last minute kind of tempering to my accessories. I just realized that the accessories that I'm using are for my water set, my water virtue build, which was my set that I was using the most. But I kind of wanted to try a fire set, so I need to go and look for some accessories that work well. I'm thinking something like because this set is like, even though it scales with fire, it's very heavily based around martial arts, so like physical damage. So I'm looking for any accessories that maybe buff martial arts or that increase spirit gain because of course martial arts use a lot of spirit gain, a lot of spirit for you to use. So anything that'll kind of increase that is what I'm thinking of right now. But I only just put this build together yesterday, so I'm still kind of testing it out to see how it's doing. It seems to be really good though. I fought like a few bosses since getting the set, and if you can get one of the martial arts off on the weapon, Lubu's weapon, it hits like a truck. So it's really insane. It reminds me of like a classic like strength build from like a Souls game where you just kind of want to land these big hits that are kind of slow, because that is the downside, is the martial arts on the halberd. I think it's called like the sky piercing halberd or something like that. They're really slow, but they hit like a truck if you have this full set, and then I've tempered every single piece to increase the martial arts damage. So I've been getting really deep into that. It's giving me that because I previously mentioned I was really into Neo 2. This game's giving me that kind of a feel again, so I'm kind of slowly getting into it. I am planning on diving into New Game Plus, and hopefully they have like the same kind of new game cycles as Neo does, where there's like a new tier of gear that you can get um, at each difficulty and new stats and stuff like that. It's always something that's been fun to me, is just seeing like crafting a build and then seeing how far you can take it. But that's me. That's mainly what I've been playing. What about you, Kira?
So for me, I have been playing a ton of World of Warcraft, The War Within. I've actually really been enjoying it a lot. So I have been maxing out some of my characters. I think I have a level 80 hunter, paladin, mage, and druid. And I've really enjoyed it. I like the dungeons, I like the delves, I like all of it. So, it's been a little more of a drag lately because I swear they've done some updates to it. So you kind of drag your feet on leveling a little bit now,
Yeah.
as opposed to when I was first starting. Even though I've got like, because for each 80, I have a buff for experience, and somehow it keeps taking longer to level my characters. And I know it's not all in my head because I've been paying attention. But yeah, but I've really been enjoying it. It's been a lot of fun. I've liked the quests and everything so far. Um, I've also just finished Chrono Trigger. I've been doing a Let's Play on Chrono Trigger, and I keep mentioning it. Like, I think I'm almost done. I think I'm almost done. Well, I'm done. So I have finished Chrono Trigger, and that was a journey. It took longer than I was expecting, but I enjoyed it overall. It was okay. It was good. Um, Now I have to try and figure out what I'm gonna play next, and I'm kind of in a position where whatever I start will most likely be interrupted for what I have planned for October. So I feel a little bad about that. Like I do X number of videos, and then it just stops for like the whole month of October, and then I'll pick it back up in November. But yeah, I need to go ahead and start something. I just don't know what yet. By the time this airs, I will have already picked something, hopefully, because this needs to go out about the same time as this video. But yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Probably something from my backlog, but we'll see. I always say that. I'm really bad about going, I'll probably play this, and then you blink and it's something else. And I'm now over here doing that because I do that a lot. I'll say, yeah, I'll play this, and then you look and it's like, where the heck did that come from? So we'll see. And I've also been playing a little bit still of Fields of Mystria. It's still holding up in there. It's still held my attention. I'm still doing a lot of the same stuff. It's one of those farming sims. So not really doing anything crazy new. Mostly just building up relationships across the whole town, just kind of learning who the characters are, that kind of stuff. Getting crops that I haven't had, trying to fill out the museum, that kind of stuff. So, but it's still right up there, which is pretty cool. It's holding its own with my addiction to War Within. But yeah, that is it for me so far. That's what I've been playing.
Cool. So yeah, Kira mentioned about the War Within and some of the kind of teething issues with leveling at the moment. So I believe what's been going on is when the expansion launched, there was some kind of problem with mob scaling. So apparently, like level 70s were hitting mobs, and the mobs were scaled like they were level 65. Is that correct, Kira?
That's what I had heard. Yes, that's what a blue had posted. Yeah.
Yeah. So a blue is like a Blizzard employee or is like a community manager or something like that.
Hmm.
Yeah. For anyone who doesn't know, so because of that issue, it was kind of like if anyone remembers playing BFA sort of at the beginning, I believe up to level 116, it was kind of the same thing where you were just completely annihilating mobs, and then your damage started falling off pretty hard until basically max level when you started gearing with end game content. So that happened, and I think Blizzard took down servers in NA for a good few hours trying to fix the problem. Went back up, and I'm not convinced the problem is fixed. Because now what seems to happen is they didn't say like they touched experience at all, experience gains, but
Hmm.
I feel like they have, because I'm leveling a second character right now, and it is just it's taking ages to get to 80, and like it's fine that it does that because at the end of the day it isn't like an RPG. Leveling is a big part of it, but it's like we get to the point where we can't even progress the campaign because you need to be level 80, and we've been doing the campaign quests and side quests, and it's just like level 77. So it's like I don't know what's going on there. So, and
Yeah.
this is with like Kira mentioned the Warbound buff. So your Warband buff, sorry, um, where subsequent characters after your first 80 will get like a 5% increase in experience gains, capped at 25%. So this is with a 5% increase, and Kira is going with a, what's your multiplier now?
It just hit 20, but I was doing it with a 15 buff most recently. So
Okay.
yeah.
So yeah, you would think that you'd get to 80 faster than your main that had no
Hmm.
experience multiplier, but it's not the case. Um,
Mm.
but yeah, other than that, Kira, how are you feeling about the War Within so far? 2 weeks
I'm
sort of
really
after.
liking it. Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I personally have enjoyed all the changes that they've made. I've liked the content. I've liked the areas. Um, that is something that has popped up in most expansions is there's always a zone that I just really don't like. And I
Yeah.
haven't really had that with this one. There's ones that I don't like as much as the others. Like the whole spider area, it kind of creeps me out, but that's just because spiders are ew. But the zone itself, like I like all of it. I like all of the zones. The quests that I've done so far have all been good. I like the delves. I like the rares. I like all of it so far. I've been enjoying it. I usually main Hunter, and Hunter's the one I got to 81st, I believe. Might have been my Druid, but that's just because I was farming mats. Like I was getting ore and stuff. But the first one that I really got to 80 and was playing was my hunter. I'm trying out tanks more this expansion, so I've kind of switched over to a paladin. And I used to main a paladin back in the Burning Crusade when Blood Elves had paladins. And I've really been enjoying the paladin. This time it's a human paladin, only because I can't have the other ones as paladins. I'm very restricted on what can be a paladin on Alliance.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been enjoying it a lot, and that may be because I've been playing paladin. I'm so tanky, and it's like wow. But I've liked running I've been doing follower dungeons. That's another thing that they've continued on from the end of Dragonflight is the follower dungeons. I've been doing follower dungeons a lot with my tank because I'm just not comfortable tanking for people yet. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's been pretty cool. The AI in the follower dungeons is good, but there are some things that I wish could be improved. They players do tend to like run and jump and be crazy in dungeons,
Yeah.
yes, but these guys really go out of their way and they will aggro stuff that you're nowhere near. And it's like, why did you do that? And I wish they'd kind of rein that in just a little bit. Is stop jumping way over there where we haven't even been yet and aggroing like four groups of mobs because they've done that to me a few times. But yeah, I've really enjoyed it. Have you felt about the your experience?
Yeah, it's been okay. I mean, I haven't quite been having the WoW itch recently, I think is all it is, but I have been enjoying the bits and pieces that I've been playing over the past week or so. And I remember mentioning, I think in the last episode about hero talents. Yeah, so trying out on a different class, I do think it does depend on, as I thought. I mean, it was a class to class or spec to spec basis. So I actually really enjoy. So Kira usually plays Hunter. I have never been a fan of Hunter personally, but I made one and I decided to play it because I really wanted to try out the Dark Ranger tree, and it's actually made me really enjoy Hunter. I think I like the different aesthetic of it. I like the fact that it's um, a bit more edgy, I guess, for lack of a better word. But yeah, it's really fun. It's kind of changed the class and it's given it this kind of twist that I think appeals to me a bit more than just kind of your regular hunter. So I've been playing marksmanship, dark ranger, hunter, um, quite a bit, and I've been enjoying it a lot more than I thought I would. So yeah, I mean, hero talents, like I said, they're a bit. I think they're a bit hit or miss. With some specs, they may not really change what that class is fundamentally, and I think at a fundamental level, this doesn't really change what marksmanship is. It's more like because it's called something and it has slightly different effects on some of its skills that are more like what you'd see on like a dark ranger. It just appeals to different kind of people, I think, like myself, who may not have been interested in the spec or the class necessarily before. So that's good. I think that's a really good way of making a new talent tree. Is just kind of instead of like fundamentally altering gameplay, it's you're just kind of adding these different spins or um, themes to the class, um, so that you can kind of do different things. And I actually like both of the trees now that I think about it from Marksman. So the first one is Dark Ranger, the second one is called Sentinel, and I mean in the lore I actually do think the Sentinels are kind of cool. I think they're the Night Elf Sentinels. I think is what they're supposed to be based on, and it looks like it's all about like owls and night owls kind of thing, and I really like owls. I think they're awesome. So I'm not opposed to like trying that at some point as well. So it's a bit of a win, I think, on Hunter at least, in my opinion, in terms of kind of the themes of the two different hero talent specs. But yeah, cool. So we'll move on to our next segment here on our show, and that is what video game series have we not tried yet that are in our backlogs? So I'll go first. First of all, for me, this is right at the top of my backlog because I really do want to try this series. It's a really old series for the PC, and it's the Quest for Glory series by Sierra. Um, I
Oh.
typically I'm not a huge fan of Sierra games. Kira is, as you had her pipe up there. Or was that Kira?
I was like, ooh, Sierra.
Yeah,
Yay.
Kira played all of these games when she was growing up, so I guess they're like pretty nostalgic to her. But basically, the Quest for Glory series, for anyone who isn't familiar with them, um, they're basically, from what I understand, they're fantasy role-playing games mixed with Sierra, with like a Sierra adventure game spin on it. So it's got your point and click stuff, but then there's also a combat. Um, Unlike the traditional Sierra games, you don't start off by having this predefined character um, with a personality and stuff. You kind of pick your own class. I think there's like fighter, mage, and rogue, or thief. I think it's called. So your kind of classic three holy trinity from D&D, uh, and then you kind of go through doing stuff. And apparently, from what I've heard, they've got really good storylines, those games, and cool characters and like some good humor. I think Sierra games, that's something pretty consistent about them, is they have like some weird humor in there as well, and pretty good storytelling. I'm not sure if these games, like the some of the King's Quest games, have full voice acting. I don't know if these games are fully voice acted, but if they are, that's a really cool bonus. But yeah, that's definitely a series I want to get into. I want to play all of those games because I'm a big fan of, especially like old school RPGs and like especially ones that try to imitate like your classic Dungeons and Dragons kind of board game, uh, tabletop role playing game. So really looking forward to getting into those games, hopefully soon. The next, kind of in the same vein, also old PC RPGs. I'd like to get into the original Baldur's Gate and Icewind Dale, those kind of old Forgotten Realms games set in the Forgotten Realms universe. I've heard really good things about them. I think Kira is a fan of them as well. Which ones have you
Very
played of
much
those?
so. I've played the original Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, and I've played Icewind Dale 1 and 2 with the expansions on all of that. Um, I really enjoyed those. I played them back when they were fairly new. I'm not going to say like straight out the gate on release day,
Yeah.
but within, a year or two of their release, I played them back when they were pretty current and they were awesome. If you're in for like an epic storyline and wow, they're pretty good. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm excited to see what you think of those.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm kind of looking for with those games. But what would you say is like the difference? 'Cause this is something I've never like I've always been confused about these games because there's like to me it seems very overwhelming because there's so many of them because you have like you said Baldur's Gate 1 and then 2. Then you have
Mhm.
Icewind Dale, I think 1 and 2, and then you have Neverwinter Nights. Like
Mhm.
what's how would you describe the difference between those games? Are they all set in like different parts of the Forgotten Realms
Yeah.
universe? Okay.
Yeah. They're all in different parts. They have a unique storyline based on their location. Because Baldur's Gate's over happy. I think you're trying to get to Baldur's Gate.
Yeah.
If you play Baldur's Gate 3, you're trying to get to Baldur's Gate. It's always this journey and you meet everybody along the way kind of thing. And Icewind Dale is pretty similar on that, where you start out on your journey and you meet people and you all join up. The combat in Baldur's Gate and Icewind Dale is very very similar. Neverwinter Nights, not the MMO, the original Neverwinter Nights, was not the same as Baldur's Gate. It was different than those that style, whatever you want to call that. Um, but yeah, they take place in different places, but the gameplay is very similar. And I personally feel like if you liked Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, you're probably going to like Icewind Dale 1 and 2.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I love the Forgotten Realms stuff.
Yeah, I'd really like to get into them a bit more. So, would you say there's like a specific order you're supposed to play these in, or I guess because they're in set in different parts of the map, it doesn't really matter?
Doesn't really matter. I would play Baldur's Gate 1 before Baldur's Gate 2 and Icewind Dale
Yeah,
1 before Icewind Dale 2, but I think you can get away with playing them in any order. Now, there may be references in Icewind Dale to Baldur's Gate because I think Baldur's Gate was the first one, but And I don't think it's anything that's going to spoil anything major. And then you'll get the reference when you go back and play Baldur's Gate. You'll be like,
Yeah,
oh, they mentioned that in Icewind Dale. This is what they were talking about. So either way, you're going to get the reference. It's just the order. But yeah,
perfect.
I think you're safe to play it in either order.
Yeah, no, that's great to hear because that's I was planning on playing Baldur's Gate, the first one first.
Hmm.
I think I own all of them. These are games that are like always on sale, or like
Hmm.
I think on GOG, if anyone uses that to buy PC games, they usually, I think at one point they were giving you these games for free whenever you bought something, like years and years ago. So I have a lot of these games already in my GOG library, but I've just never played them. Um, just because I think they're a bit time consuming and you don't always have the time to get into such
Yeah.
a heavy game. But yeah, I did play a little bit of the first Baldur's Gate, I think last year, a while ago, and I really liked it. It was good. It felt very old school, but in a really good way. It's kind of like, you know how some games can just feel nostalgic, even though you did play them growing up or anything like that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it had that kind of a feel. It was really good. I liked the way they
And
told
it
story. Carry on, sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say they're one of those games that when you jump in, you know that feeling you get. You can go either way. You can jump straight into a game and you're like, "Oh man, this is gonna be really good," or you can jump in and go, "Oh no, I'm not gonna like this."
Yeah,
That's I had that. Oh, this is gonna be so good the first time I played Baldur's Gate and Icewind Dale. It's like, oh, this is gonna be awesome. You kind of have that, and you get it really early on because you kind of get that feeling that we're going on an epic
yeah,
adventure kind of feeling,
absolutely.
and it feels good when when you start playing it. I feel like that's my thing. So
Yeah, and it's one of those games that starts off like pretty generically by today's standards, where you're like,
mhm.
you start off in your house and then like, oh, go talk to this person in town to find some key or something like that. But as soon as you leave your house and there's this like city that you're a part of, or like this small village kind of thing, and you like see the library and there's like all these little hidden secrets, and it feels like an actual fantasy world, like a living, breathing fantasy world. I think that's just amazing that they were able to do that for the time the game came out.
There was voice acting a little bit. I
Yeah,
don't
there
know that
was. Yeah,
everything was voice acted, but like there was quite a bit of voice acting, and that's pretty good for back then too.
I can't remember if you could like choose your race though. I don't think you could. I think you had to play a human, right?
No, I think you can choose your race because I
Oh,
want
you
to say I was
can.
an elf.
Because I would
At
choose
least
probably like,
in
yeah, like a drow or something,
some of them. Yeah, I
or a wood
think
elf.
maybe not that far, but yeah, I don't really remember Baldur's Gate, the original Baldur's Gate, but I thought in Icewind Dale you could. I remember in one of them changing my race,
That's
but
even better than,
yeah.
yeah. I usually like playing some kind of elf.
Well, I don't want to get into spoilers, but I think you find out like right at the beginning that you're not you were like adopted or something.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, so they're spinning
I
it like
think it
that.
lets yeah, so I think you can be whatever you want to be. Is you don't have you're not actually like from this person.
Yeah,
So it's you. I think you're allowed to be whatever you want to be. So
cool.
yeah.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to getting into those games at some point. I think that'll be pretty
Mm.
fun. And then lastly for me is a series of totally different genre, but the Higurashi and Umineko visual novels that are on Steam. I have one of them. I think it's Umineko one. I forgot what it was called. But I really like mystery and horror, and I think this series is basically both of those things. When I was much younger and I would watch like anime a lot, I don't really watch anime anymore, but when I was in the kind of late teens, I watched the Higurashi anime, and it was really creepy, but it was really good. And I had no idea that they were, I guess, visual novels before. I don't remember actually if they were like a light novel first, then a visual novel, or if it was a visual novel then an anime, but one of those two things. Um, so I've kind of never really gotten into visual novels, but I saw them on Steam, and apparently they have really good storylines, and they have that kind of mystery element to them, which I really like with games. I mean, I'm a huge fan of the Phoenix Wright series, and stuff like that. contradiction we've mentioned in the past. So I'm looking forward to getting into those games at some point. Hopefully they're not like too weird because some visual novels can be really weird. Yeah, but yeah, hopefully they're not one of those. I don't think so. I think they are just kind of yeah, just mystery horror type of thing with some supernatural stuff, which I really liked because the supernatural stuff was actually quite like not scary, but it was pretty well done from what I remember because it was like about folklore of this town and witches and all that kind of stuff. I think or like witchcraft. I think there was like a possession or something like that as well. So it gets into some pretty extreme stuff from my memory. But yeah, I'd like to see to get into those games. But that's all from me. I think that's a nice stack of games to look forward to in the near or distant future. We'll see. But yeah, what about you, Kira?
Well, mine, I, mine all. I have a huge backlog, and it's mostly because the games that I tend to play are all like really long, really long games. So my backlog fills up faster than I can play anything. But mine all tend to be along the similar vein. And the first on mine would be the Ease series. I've always wanted to get into the E series. I'm going to go ahead and throw the Trails series in there too because I believe they're by the same developers. So, same company. So the Ease and the Trails series have always been ones that just by looking at the cover art and stuff, I've always been like, "Wow, I really want to play that." Because it just looks like that style of JRPG that would be really fun, and the little bits that I've seen of the combat, and I want to play them. Especially like I think I'd probably start with Ease Origins. It really reminds me, I think I've mentioned that before. It reminds me of like the old Tales of Destiny, like PlayStation 1 era style graphics. And anything that looks like Tales of Destiny is going to get me because it's like, oh, I want to play that because I absolutely adore Tales of Destiny. But those two series are on my backlog, and I'm really hoping to get into those soon. They're both series that just have so many entries into them. It will take me forever, ages and ages to actually work my way through the whole thing. That being said, though, at the most recent Nintendo Direct, they did announce that was it Trails of the Sky, which I think I've also mentioned that before, is getting a remaster for the Switch and stuff. So that might be a really good time to jump into that
Yeah,
series instead of the E series. I want to get into them both. It'll just be deciding which one at the time. But they both look really good. Another one that I have been wanting to get into is Chained Echoes. I've heard amazing things about that game. It looks really good. I have it, and I need to play it. It looks like a really fun game to get into. If anybody's out there that's played it, let me know what you thought of it. I've like I said, I've heard really good things.
I've
I think it
actually
might be
never
time to
heard.
just take the
Okay.
plunge.
Whoa.
Really?
Yeah, I've never
Yeah.
heard of that. What could you like? What is it? Like, what kind of game is it? Is it like an RPG?
It's a it's another RPG, yeah. I don't actually know if it's by like if it's a JRPG, but it is another. It's like a pixel graphics RPG.
Okay.
It's another turn-based. I believe it's turn-based. It's that 16-bit style. Um, it just looks really good to me.
Is it kind of like
But I
Sea of
believe it's
Stars?
a little bit in
Yeah.
the sense that it's like from the an indie company kind of thing.
Yeah.
It just looks amazing to me. So I need to just take the plunge and get it because, like, I think at this point everybody's played it except me that had any interest in
Yeah.
it. So it's like, oh, so I need to go ahead and play it. And then by that same vein, Cosmic Star Heroine, that's another one that I would like to play. It's another pixel graphic style role-playing game that just looks like it would be one that I would like. I like that kind of style. If the game's any good at all and it's pixel art, I will be all over it. I like pixel graphics a lot, but I grew up with them, and I know pixel graphics are not for everybody, but they can be some of the prettiest games, like Octopath Traveler, that kind of thing. But yeah, Cosmic Star Heroine looks like one that I would really enjoy. For something about that main character actually reminds me a little bit of Alice from
Yeah,
Fantasy Star
I can
4.
see that. Yeah.
I can't. Yeah, yeah. It's like it's not her, but the little bits that I've seen of it, something about her really reminds me of Alice. So I'm also sold on that front because anything that makes me think of Tales of Destiny or Fantasy Star 4, it's like okay. But and then last for me on my backlog, I know I have a lot. Sorry. These this is actually me narrowing it down by like a lot. Like there's a
Yeah.
lot. Dragon Quest series. That's always been on my backlog. I've never gotten into it. The only thing that I've played from the Dragon Quest series is Dragon Quest Builders 2, 1, 2,
Yeah,
something.
the second one.
The second one, yeah. And it's a cute game and I loved it, but to say I played a Dragon Quest game and yeah, I played Dragon Quest Builders, I'd be like, you haven't played Dragon Quest, the fraud. So yeah, it's I haven't actually really gotten into the Dragon Quest series, but that's another one that they're coming out with that HD remaster ones. The was it 2.5 HD remasters?
Yeah.
So, which those also look amazing. If you want to talk about amazing looking pixel art,
Oh
those
yeah.
are beautiful games. So that may be the time for me to jump in on Dragon Quest. I actually have Dragon Quest 3 pre-ordered, so I better get on that. But that saying I pre-ordered it, I do have some that I have gotten, and even though they're on my backlog and I have the best intentions of doing it, I'm sometimes a little delayed on jumping in. But I am really, really excited about Dragon Quest. So maybe that'll be the time for me to get into that series, especially if they continue these remakes. So, yeah,
Yeah.
that is my list of backlogs.
Yeah, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on the new Dragon Quest HD
Mm,
2D. What did they call
yeah.
it? They were like HD 2.5D remaster. That's
Yeah.
quite the name. But yeah, I'd be interested to hear
eh,
your thoughts on it. Um,
the trailer looks really pretty and the music was very nice and it sold me enough that I actually pre-ordered it and I don't usually pre-order very often. So I was like, yep, sold mine.
yeah,
So yeah.
definitely. Do you think you're gonna do a let's play on that?
Probably. I
That'd
hope
be cool.
to. I want to do one on that and yeah, maybe that'll be my new thing is going down the Dragon Quest series.
Just play all
That'd be
of
kind
them.
of fun. Yeah.
I think are
So,
they all like they're not. That's not one of the series that's kind of consolidated on one platform, is it? Like Final Fantasy, it's kind of like
um,
all you can play all of them on PC. I think now.
yeah. I don't think you can with Dragon Quest, but I've never super looked into it until I saw like this remake and I was like, "Oh, let me get it." And
Yeah,
I know 1 and 2 will be coming out as well. So, yeah, hopefully there's an easy way to play them all because I would like to do a
hopefully.
let's play. But maybe they'll just continue this whole remake down the line.
Yeah,
Like, here you go, and get them all. Because as much as I like playing these on a console because I feel like JRPGs are best on console, it is nice to have them on PC sometimes just because you have them all in one place.
yeah,
So
definitely.
that's the main plus I can say for having them on PC is, well, they're all right here together, and I can just play them back to back. But it feels weird.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think like a lot of the Dragon Quest games, from what I remember, are like on the DS as well.
Hmm.
Which was it you that was telling me that some of those DS games are like failing now or something? They're not working anymore.
Yeah, there's
That's a
stuff with some
shame.
of the old cartridges, like the actual games just don't work anymore, and it's a age thing. It's not a how much you played it or where you kept it or anything like that. Like I know some of the Pokemon games have just failed, and it's like, but there was
No.
what? And there's like
Yeah.
nothing to fix in it. Like they just don't work anymore, and it's like, wow, that stinks because that's one of the best things about getting them on physical is you'll just have them forever
Yeah.
and
Yeah, that's but the cartridges
yeah.
are not made to
Yeah.
last. That's always been a problem with a lot of these cartridge-based systems. The games eventually
Mm.
will stop working.
Well, it's weird because I have cartridges that were on the NES and they work just fine, and then my DS games are like, "Nope, we're done." And it's like, "But
Yeah, that is a bit
this old
strange,
man
isn't it?
cartridge over here is working just fine. Get off your butt, youngster." And it just doesn't work. So yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what's up with
But
that.
yeah.
That's really disappointing though, but I mean, I guess it has been a while since the DS has been out, but still. The problem is like a
Yeah.
lot of those games have been like locked to DS. They haven't really been
Mm-hmm.
ported to anything else, so if that does happen, then
Yeah.
that's just those games may just get lost to time.
Because they got to do something with that touch screen, and any game that
Yeah,
any system that they port it to is, well, we had all these features that were for the touch screen. What are we gonna do with that? So they got to work around that. And
and most just don't
it'd
want to
be
deal with
nice
that.
if more of these, yeah, it'd be nice if more of these they worked through it and were like, yeah, we'll port them all to the Switch. Like I would be so happy because there's so many games that I would like to play that are on the DS. And I could do Let's Plays on those because I don't have a DS that has a capture card built into it. You can buy them, but they're very, very expensive and hard to find. But if they port them to the Switch, I could actually do a few Let's Plays on them, and that'd be awesome.
That would.
So,
Yeah, you just reminded me actually. I want to add one more game to my list. I was I don't know what I was doing the other day. I was cleaning my closet or something like that, and I had this like pillow that I was basically propped up, and it fell, and behind it, what did I find? But my Wii U. A
oh
Wii U,
wow,
yeah, I
yeah,
remember that system. It wasn't that, I'm not that
yeah.
old, but I was like,
No.
I forgot I had a Wii U. I wonder if it works with my capture card. But I'd like to go back because I right next to my Wii U was my, I think, is it a collector's edition of Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess? So I'd like to actually
Oh
play
yeah,
that game because I've heard good things, but I've actually heard quite mixed things about the game. I think some people really like it and some people really don't like it. So
yeah. Hmm.
um, I'd like to play Twilight Princess, and I'd also like to play Wind Waker, just because I really like the art style of Wind Waker a lot.
Hmm.
Yeah,
That would be awesome. I believe the Wii U does work with a capture card. It's just some things it shows on the little handheld screen that you're not going to be able to port to a capture card, as far as I know.
yeah,
But overall, the majority of it should work with the capture card.
yeah. Could that be uh, a little trove of fun right there? If it still works,
Yeah.
hopefully it still works. But yeah, cool. So I think we'll move on to our final segment of the show today, and that is what games do we wish that would get a remaster or a remake? So for me personally, I have two games that I picked. One is a series, one is a game. The first is the Thief series. So this is the an old um, series. I think it was on PC, and then I think the third game was on Xbox, the original Xbox and PC. I think Thief Deadly Shadows. But I only really played the first one. Was it called Thief Deadly Shadows? Yeah, I think so. And I really love the original Thief game. That's actually one of my favorite games on PC. I really like immersive sims. Is I think the genre, this kind of subgenre of kind of exploration game that this is, because it's not really an RPG, and it's not really like a kind of Elder Scrolls, because it's a first-person game. It's not really an Elder Scrolls style RPG. Although you do have a sword and you do have a bow and arrow and stuff. It's not like that. And then obviously it's not a shooter, first-person shooter. So people are like, well, what is it, kind of thing. But it's kind of like Deus Ex, the original Deus Ex, immersive sim, which just kind of I think is a term or genre, a name for games that basically have a focus on emergent gameplay. So you have these areas, you have these levels with multiple paths and multiple ways you can reach the end. And the idea is that everyone's kind of playthrough of it will be different. You'll all think of different solutions. And I think Thief kind of encompasses this idea the best from what because I've played a few of them over the years, other immersive sims, and it's just like the level design in these games are genius. Like they're so well done. I can't believe how many different ways there are of getting through level one. Like it really does feel like, because I've played through this game, like some of these levels multiple times, and each time you'll notice something different. You'll notice like a different path you could have taken that will lead you to the end that you with the goal, whatever objective that you need to do. And there's like just really cool touches. Like for example, one of the things without spoiling too much, um, you start out outside of this kind of manor, kind of being a manor mansion, and you have to figure out how to get inside. You can pickpocket a guard if you want to. It's a bit risky. You can do that if you want to. You can try and sneak in somewhere, or if you bought a rope arrow, because this game has like these cool different types of arrows that you can get. You have a water arrow that can extinguish torches, and then one of them is a rope arrow that literally is like, Batman style. You can, instead of grappling hook, you can just shoot out an arrow that will turn into a rope, and then you can collect it again, and so you can recycle and use it again. And if you find like a certain point of the house, because you can only fire the arrow at like wooded surfaces, and there is a wooded surface right above you. You can just fire your rope arrow up there, and you can climb all the way up, get onto a balcony, open the door, and now you're in. And this is another way in, and that's a lot easier because you avoid a lot of the guards by going in this way, and you get some extra loot. Because the whole kind of the game of Thief, each mission in the game requires you to go into like an area and steal something, or complete some objective. Like maybe I think one of them has you like trying to break somebody out of a prison, for example. And along the way you want to get as much loot as you can, like a true thief. But yeah, I would really like them to do a remaster of this game. Unfortunately, I think it's Looking Glass Studios, the original developers of the games. They no longer exist. I think they went defunct in the early 2000s, and some of the developers joined, I think, Eidos Interactive to work on some of the other games. I think they worked on Deus Ex as well after that. But yeah, like they're no longer around. So I would like a remaster or something. I know there was the recent game that was just called Thief or Thief 4, but I've played it. I think in its own right, if you just take it for what it is, it's not terrible, but it definitely doesn't compare to the original Thief. It just doesn't. It's very linear. There isn't really multiple ways through an area. It's just kind of on rails sneaking, which, I mean, if you're not wanting to get into, because like the original Thieves, it's a game you really do have to dedicate quite a bit of time to kind of figure out these areas, and you're going to get lost a lot. That is a big part of these types of games. Is you probably will get to a point where you won't really know where to go next, but if you kind of stick with it and persevere, you'll eventually find your way through, which is why I think the level design is so good, because that is how the game works. Even when you get stuck, you'll still find your way to your objective. It just may take you a bit of a while. As long as you're kind of, just kind of using your tools, your thief tools to your advantage, you'll eventually find your way back to where you need to go. But yeah, the new games don't really have any of that in it. It's just very linear. Has a really cool aesthetic though. I think if you like that kind of dark, Victorian sort of gothic style, you'd really enjoy the remake aesthetically. But if you're a diehard Thief fan, it's not really going to do much for you. So I hope they do make another one. But I have heard that immersive sims are extremely difficult to create, and I believe that they are. All of the ones I've played are very intricate. The ones that I've actually really enjoyed. And they don't tend to do so well, from what I've heard as well, because it's a bit of a niche genre. So I think a lot of developers just don't really think that there's a whole lot of, like, it's not that worth it to put a lot of time into making those types of games, which is sad because I think it's a really good genre. But hopefully, we see a return of Garrett, or if there is a successor. But yeah, we have OG Garrett back. That would be really, really awesome. And then the next game is a different kind of game, but it's also an old game. This game was on PC as well as the original PlayStation, and that is the Legacy of Kain Blood Omen, the first Blood Omen game. Now this is a kind of top-down RPG where you play as Kain, who is a newly turned vampire, and this is a really good vampire game for anyone who hasn't played it. It has an amazing soundtrack. Again, really atmospheric. It makes you feel like you're in this kind of dark vampire world with like werewolves and zombies and ghosts and all that kind of good stuff. It's like the perfect Halloween game if you're looking for something like that. But it is extremely dated, and the combat isn't quite as good as I think it could be. But other than that, I mean, if you can look, it's a very rough around the edges game, but when it's there, it's brilliant. It's a very good game. Highly recommended it. Highly recommend it if you're into sort of top-down old-school action RPGs. And if you're into vampire games, I mean, you gotta play this one. This one is excellent, and it did spawn like a whole series. But to my knowledge, I think the games got worse as you as you went along, which is a real shame. And I don't think the series is um, around anymore. I think they stopped making games for that series. So hopefully, if it does come back, it's not with another, you know, lame game. But yeah, I hope they remake the original Blood Omen because I really enjoyed. I played it, I think, a few years ago, and I thought it held up really well. I think if you're in the mood for something like that, definitely give it a try. It's really fun. You can get it on GOG, and again, it's one of those games that's usually really, really cheap. So, especially with like, I think sort of winter coming up, there tend to be a lot of sales going on at this time. So, why not? If you see it on sale for a good price, I'd highly recommend checking it out. It's a really good one. But yeah, those are my picks. What about you, Kira?
Those are some pretty good picks. Thief sounds really, really interesting. I've heard about Thief, but I've never played Thief myself. But
Yeah,
it's one that's always been like, that's crazy because it just has so many different ways to do stuff. And I always find those types of games really interesting. It's like, how do you guys think and plan for all this? But yeah.
yeah.
Um, so for mine, uh, games that I wish they would do a remaster or a remake. I don't think any of mine will come as a huge surprise. Top of my list would be Fantasy Star 4. I've mentioned that game so many times. They had started to. They did a remake of the first ones, 1 through 3. No, 1 through 2. Anyway, they did a remake of the first ones. I believe that was Generations on the PlayStation 2. Those were amazing from my understanding. I haven't actually played those myself. I may try to do a let's play if that's allowed because these are games that have not been brought to the West. They're only in Japanese, and sometimes those can be a little weird on whether you can do let's plays on those, but I'll look into it. But they had just started to do the remake for Phantasy Star 4, and that's when they canceled the whole project. So there are screenshots out there of what they started on, and it looks amazing. And I'm so sad that that was never finished. That really didn't make it very far. They didn't make very much progress on it before it was canceled. So a Fantasy Star 4 remake would just be amazing. That would be the top of my list. I personally would like a Final Fantasy VIII remake. They did do a remaster where they kind of touched up some of the graphics a little bit. But they didn't really do much with it, honestly. Um, I would actually like a fully remade Final Fantasy VIII. That would be kind of cool because I know it's not popular opinion, but Final Fantasy VIII is my favorite Final Fantasy. It's one of the first ones that I really, really got into. And I like all of the Final Fantasies almost, not all of them, but eight a remake would be pretty awesome. I would like to see that. Now the next two, one's not going to be as big of a surprise as the yeah. I would like a remake of Ultima 7.
Mm.
I think that would be very cool. Um, I that Ultima 7 was the first Ultima game that I played. I went back and played some of the others, like that whole Underworld series and some of the older Ultima games. 7 has always been my favorite. I don't think it's just because it was the first one I played. It's one of those that as you play through them, you see all the improvements that they made over the years to it and everything. I just really liked 7. And I have played 7, both parts of it, the Serpent Seed and all that stuff. I've played with the expansions and I've finished the full Ultima 7 game because there's a part 1 and a part 2, and part 1 and part 2 each have their own expansions. So I really enjoyed that one. I think that one would be really neat to see a remake of that. I do like the pixel art. There's something very nostalgic, and there's times where Ultima 7's one that I have on GOG, and you can play it through an emulator called Exalt, where it's basically it's taking your install files that you have because you have to own the game to use this emulator. It's just an emulator for Windows because these are such old games that they don't really run on modern Windows systems because this was like a DOS game. And DOSBox does not handle this game very well. Neither does that other one, Scum VM, whatever that
Yeah,
one is.
that one.
Neither of those handle this
Nah.
game. Like I've tried, and they don't handle it. So a team of people went and made Exalt, which is its own little emulator just for Ultima 7, and they did an amazing job. So shout out to that team. um, it is awesome. So you install the games and it'll run that for you, and it throttles everything down so it's not running too fast. It does everything that it runs perfectly. But it would be really nice to actually see a remake of it in like current stuff. That'd be pretty cool. That said, like the beginning of the very first game starts out like it's this really violent murder scene, which that's not spoiling anything. Like literally you create your character, you load in, and there it is. And it's like,
Wow.
whoa. So that it could be a little graphic for modern stuff, but if it was done right, I think it could be really cool to see a remake of that game. I loved Ultima 7. It was one of the first like epic adventure games that I played. It was pretty cool. And then last for me out of my list, because this is not the only four that I would want to see a remaster remake, but I did my best to narrow it down to just a handful. Um, is Shining Force. I would really like to see a remake of Shining Force. That would be pretty cool. Um, that's kind of to me because I played Shining Force before I played like Fire Emblem or any of those. It's one of those games where if you liked Fire Emblem, you probably would like Shining Force. It's one of those where it's got kind of a fantasy story to go with a tactics game, and it's not as it's not as brutal as Fire Emblem, because if I remember right with Shining Force, you can actually go back and do previous battles and kind of level up your people. And they're ones that if you get into a battle and you leave before you kill the final boss, you can go stay at the inn, heal up, come back in, and do it again for more XP, which is really nice to be able to level in that kind of game. Because Fire Emblem, I don't think you can do that. Not that I remember in any of the ones that I played anyway, but I may not have tried it. But yeah, Shining Force is one. You can make it all the way through that map, get to the final boss, and then go, oh, never mind. And you retreat, you go back to town, you heal up, and you come back, and you could do it all over again almost as many times as you want and get a few levels if you're struggling on keeping everybody alive. And it's another one that if you lose somebody, you don't lose them. They'll be back. They'll come back. They'll heal at the end, and they'll be there for the next one. Because I have done that. So yeah, those would be my picks for remakes. All mine are super old, but it would be really nice because that's the thing is these old games they were very good at the time, but
Yeah.
when you go back and try and play some of them, it'd be like, man, this would be really cool if it was on a more modern thing. It'd be neat to see what they could do with it. And that being said, I've played some remakes where I go, yeah, but I don't like that. I'm gonna go play the old one anyway. So ha.
Yeah.
And that
Definitely.
that could be the case with these, but I think it'd be really neat to see a remake of some of these. But
Well, at the
those
very
would be
least,
my
if
pick.
just to make it a little easier to run on a modern machine, because I mean, especially
Hmm.
mentioned with Ultima 7, like some of those old games, like with even the Gabriel Knight series, they can be a
Hmm.
real pain to get to run on a modern machine. You need like to really mess around with emulators and lots of
Hmm.
like faffing around to get it
Well,
working.
some of those, like you mentioned Gabriel Knight, some of those, even if you get it working right, there's timed events that can happen within Gabriel Knight. I remember there's a specific scene at the police station where you try and you get them to leave and you have to go do something before they come back. But it's based on like how fast your CPU cycles. So
Oh
basically,
no,
even
yeah.
if you have it set up, you still need to like slow DOSBox
Otherwise it'll be
way
super
down.
fast
Yeah, because
and
I was playing through it
impossible.
and everything was fine. Like the game wasn't like the game doesn't run too fast on its own. The music's fine, everything's okay. It's not like you're speed running the game on this really fast computer.
Yeah.
It's running the way it looks like the way it should. But you get to that and that dude walks outside and then he immediately turns around and comes right back in. And it's like I didn't even have a chance to click, man.
Yeah.
What? You know, it's so you have to, even with stuff like that, you still have some fine tuning where it's like, well, that was really frustrating because it takes a while to figure out what's going on with it and how to slow DOSBox down. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, with some of these, it'd be really nice. There's that's one I'm gonna surprise add to my list is there was this old X-Files game from 98, 99.
Hmm.
It's one of those FMVs and it's a point and click adventure, but it's with everything is FMV everywhere. And this game is ancient. And I played it when it was new and it scared me because I was a kid, but I would love to play that today, but it's supposed to be this huge pain to get it to run because it wasn't
Yeah.
a DOS game. It was an old like Windows 95 or 98 game, something like that. And current Windows does not like it at all.
Yeah.
And like there's all these like workarounds on how to get it to run, how to get it. It's like, oh, QuickTime. I remember QuickTime. You know, it's like
Yeah.
all this
Oh,
stuff and it's like, it's so much trouble, and then it can just randomly crash on you anyway. And so it would be really nice to have some remakes, remasters of some of these, just so that they're more accessible, so you can play your old favorite games, and so that new people that have never played them but have heard of them have a chance to step in. That would be really really cool. So
definitely.
yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks everyone for listening, and thank you, Kira, for joining me today on the show. It was a nice episode, I think. Um,
That was a lot of fun.
yeah. Before signing
Yeah.
off, Kira does have a funny. So we're kind of testing a sort of not really a segment, but just like some fun things to do before instead of just goodbye, see you next week or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, we're just gonna like some funny things that have happened this week. Kira owns two wonderful cats, and sometimes they do wonderful things and not so wonderful things. um,
Yeah.
but yeah, she has a story. Take it away, Kira. What's your funny
They're
cat story of the
both
week?
they're both little butts. I have two tuxedo cats, which if any of you watch any of my Let's Plays, I talk about Evie and Ellie, especially Ellie, all the time because they're constantly getting involved in everything. They're awesome little cats and they're pretty funny. But while Evie is incredibly affectionate and a big cuddle bug and she really likes to show her affection, Ellie she's affectionate, but she likes to be pet on her own terms for the length of time that she decides. And then any other pets are kind of like, no, it's not time for that right now. She's not mean. She just looks at you like, what are you doing? This is not time for pets. But whenever you leave the room or something and she knows that you are in another room than her, she will start yelling very, very loudly for you to come back. She has like this human, where did you go? Kind of attitude, like, hey, just because I didn't want pets doesn't mean you get to leave. And so she'll yell at you, even if it's just like you just went to the kitchen or something. You know, like you just left for a few minutes. Like you don't even have to be gone very long. I have literally closed the door right behind me and she'll start yelling immediately. And it's like, oh. And other people have heard her and they've been like, that's a very upset cat. I was like, I know, I just now left. What the heck? So the other day I did that, and she yelled the whole time, the whole literally 2 minutes I was out of the room. And I came back, and as soon as I opened the door, she's sitting right there, right by the door, out of reach. So I didn't like smack her with it. She knows the range of the door, and she's sitting there staring straight up at me. She makes eye contact with me, and just lets out this yell at me, like "Excuse you," kind of meow. And I was like, "Hi, Ellie." And she just yelled at me the whole time. As soon as I closed the door, she was still yelling at me. She followed me all the way down the little hallway, just trotting along, right at my feet. She jumped up on her cat bed and kept yelling at me until I got to my desk. She jumped up on my desk, yelled at me, and then I sat down. And then I call it paper waiting. She comes and she sits in my lap. She doesn't want me to pet her. She's not in the mood for pets, but she's going to sit on me to make sure that I don't go anywhere. She's like, "Okay, human, you've lost your rights." And she comes and she like does her cat kneading thing, and then she just lays down. And then she stares at me like, "You're not going anywhere, human." And I was like, "Hi, Ellie." She reminds me, all the yelling that she does, for anyone that's seen that Harry Potter, she reminds me of Molly Weasley
Yeah.
with the "Where have you been?" And it's like, "Oh, hi, Ellie." She it's that whole skit where Molly's like, "Bed's empty, everything's gone. No, no, where have you been?" It's like, I was gone for like 2 minutes. And she properly tells you off, but she's a little drama queen with her. "How dare you?" I was like, "I'm sorry, Ellie. I will try not to have to go get water anytime soon." But yeah, that
Water
my
right there,
cats are.
says Ellie,
Yeah,
pointing to
she's
the cat bowl.
she. You don't need water. So yeah, they're pretty funny. Evie doesn't do that. That is specifically an Ellie thing. And she'll sit on you for quite a while. She doesn't want you to pet her, but she'll come paperweight you so that you don't run the risk of running off again. She's like, "Nope, I'm gonna sit down right here." And she'll be there. It's like, okay. And then if that same day though, as soon as she got up, I remember I had to get up to go like wash my hands or something. And I had just barely stood up, and she already was yelling at me before I even did anything. She's like, "Don't you think about it." It's like, "It's okay, Ellie. I'll be right back." So, but yeah, she's a silly little cat.
Oh,
But
Ellie.
yeah,
Oh,
silly
cool.
tuxedo cats.
Yeah, thanks very much for that story, Kira. That's a nice way to kind of send us off. Um,
Hey,
but yeah, and with that, I think that's a wrap for this episode of Friday Fables, episode 5. We hope you've all enjoyed the show. Be sure to leave a comment if you did, if you have anything interesting to say about any of the topics. If you have any games you wish were remastered, or remade, or if you have any backlog series that you're looking forward to getting stuck into at some point, let us know. But yeah, with that, as always, I'm one of your hosts, Jags, and joining me is Kira.
thank you guys so much. Catch you next time.
We'll talk to you next time.